On July the 3rd, 2023, we're going to experience a full moon in Capricorn at 11 degrees, and it is going to be transformative, powerful, and regenerative, but also emotionally intense. And in each of our lives, this moon can help us rebirth something anew, create something entirely new in our lives as it pertains to the Capricorn part of your 12 houses in your natal sky. We're going to talk about how that might play out for you during this full moon in the month of July 2023. We're also going to talk about how this will play out for the collective. We have the asteroid Shiva, the destroyer, involved in this lunation. Whoa, we have a Pluto moon thing going on that's really intense as well. And we can also bring attention to one of the most interesting stars I've done any research in a long time. We'll be talking about that fixed star as it pertains to this lunation. We're going to get going in a few seconds. And before we do, let me say a little bit about me. My name is Lori Lothian. I'm using the Western Tropical Zodiac. I am using whole sign houses, as are all astrologers on YouTube, as we delineate the sky for you. And if you want to know about me, anything I'm up to, in my description box below, classes, my Patreon community, my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter, all have certain perks and things you get extra special, especially the Patreon community. Yes, I do readings, but I'm booked up till the end of the year. I'm opening up new spots for limited sessions this fall. If you're interested, there is a wait list in the description box, okay? And if you want to join my Patreon community, you get all this ad-free content, early access, all 30 videos that you get on YouTube every month, you get for early access and ad-free, as well as 2 Zoom meetings with me a month in small group settings. So check out my Patreon community as well. All right, so let's get going. So the first thing I want to say about this moon, guys, I'm gonna go down a bit of a rabbit hole. So let me say a couple of things. If you are somebody who is not interested in mundane astrology, which simply means I'm going to talk about how this will impact the world, if that's not your cup of tea, that's fine. You can just jump ahead using the chapters of the timestamps, and you can jump ahead to the section that's all about your sign. Listen for your rising sign. It's always going to be a bit more accurate than your sun or moon. Why? Sun can be about father figures, moon about mother figures, moon about home, sun about father, purpose, career. But the rising sign, the ascendant degree, is about you. If you don't know your rising sign in whole sign house system, tropical astrology, my free tutorial is in the description box. Go grab it, and I'll teach you how to do this on your own using free online software. All right, so let's go back to the sky. I'm going to bring us down a little bit of a mundane rabbit hole, and in the second half of the video, it's going to be a very simple delineation about how you can transform, or the sky is transforming something pretty darn profound in your very own life. Now, we're going to go first of all and talk about the stars involved and the moon on Shiva. There are 2 stars that the sun is sitting on at 11 degrees and 18 minutes of the sign of Cancer. The sun is on fixed star Alzir, and the sun is on fixed star Alhina. Now, Alhina is a positive star. It's a part of the heavenly twins. It's the gamma star of the Gemini constellation, and it has to do with spiritual aspiration, refinement, has to do with being broad-minded, curious, and it's often connected to the idea of, in quotes, the pleaser, poet, artist, performer, and social butterfly, as well as, drum roll, the truth seeker. I'm going to emphasize the word truth seeker. So there's a star about seeking truth called Alhina, all right, sitting with the sun at the time of this full moon lunation. Secondly, the other star that's sitting here with the sun is Alzir. Alzir is the right foot of Pallas, like Castor and Pollux, the divine twin of Castor and Pollux twinship. That's the Gemini brothers in the sky. So here's what the software says about that particular star. Likes to shake things up, move things around, evolutionary or revolutionary energies, abilities to take a stand and see things through. Savvy political operator. That would be if you're born with that star. But shaking things up, evolutionary, revolutionary energies, truth seeker energies are on the sun at the time of the full moon. And you might go, well, why is Lori talking about the sun? This is about the moon. Because a full moon reflects the light of the sun. It's that simple. And at the very same time, Mercury is conjunct that sun. News, information, ideas, especially the news cycle. In fact, Mercury is on the dog star Sirius, which is the sun of the United States of America. Because of course, July 4th, the day after the lunation, is Happy Birthday USA. So some big news stories will be coming out of America during the aftermath of this full moon on July the 3rd, 2023. In your life, this can be about big, revolutionary, evolutionary, truth-seeking, breaking free, because where we get the breakthrough energy is from Shiva the Destroyer. There's creator, preserver, destroyer in the three gods of the Hindu mythology. This is like the forest fire that burns the forest down so that new growth can happen. Shiva will destroy what is already in existence so that new growth can happen. Okay, now think about this just for a minute with me. I'm going to show you the sky so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so the moon is opposite Shiva. So again, we've got those two stars about truth-seeking, evolution, revolution, and Shiva the Destroyer with Mercury, the news and information guy, also the revealer of news and information. Sitting on that Cancer sun, reflected by the Capricorn moon. Now, Capricorn is top-down power structures. It's systems of banking and finance, especially in the United States chart. It's also governments and corporations and what everyone would like to call, the powers that be, the powers that top down upon humanity. You could even put, if you were going that direction, like the Illuminati or the elite, perhaps in Capricorn. But as Pluto has been going through the sign of Capricorn, since 2008, there has been a deep excavation, transformation, and revelation of all things Capricornian. That was the Me Too movement. That was the energy of the Occupy Wall Street. That was the subprime loan scandal. This is the banking failures. This has been the pandemic. It's all of that. So we've been seeing a lot of fracturing of reality and the existing structures in banking and money and currencies and governments cracking at the seams. That's a once every 248 year Pluto transit. And yes, it's the United States of America's birthday, Pluto return, which is going back to the founding of the USA. So Pluto returns have led to fall of the Roman Empire, led to revolution in France. This energy can be very much about this upheaval. It's not happening overnight. This is a longer story over the next few years. Now, all of that said, and I hope you're okay with this mundane astrology, I am going to show you the sky. I'm going to show you two skies. I'm going to show you the sky back in 2020, January the 12th. This is what happened. I'm going to show you what happened. It was the onset of the pandemic, at least in the eye of the public. It was when WHO, I believe, announced that there was a pandemic or a virus of concern that later became the pandemic. But the point is when we all started to go, what the hell's going on in Wuhan, China, right? So I'm going to show you the picture of that sky back then, and I'm going to tell you what's happening now, because a lot of it is connected to back then, particularly the asteroid Wuhan. Wuhan is currently in the crosshairs, the square point to Pluto, right? Death, rebirth, regeneration. At the very same time, this full moon that's happening at 11 degrees of Capricorn, right, has what we call a moon-Pluto midpoint, the space between Pluto at 29 degrees as he's retrograded back into Capricorn on June 11th from his short stay in Aquarius, and the moon at 11 degrees, putting the midpoint around 22 degrees of the sign of Capricorn. That's exactly this conjunction of Saturn and Pluto on January 12, 2020, that was the bellwether onset for a global pandemic. And that does track with other pandemics in the past, including the Black Plague. Pluto, Saturn can bring these things on. So here we go. We're going to move into sharing the sky. I hope I don't sound like a preacher, but I'm really jazzed by this stuff. I'm jazzed and I'm intrigued, and I'm also hopeful. I'll be talking about the asteroid Pandora for Pandora's box just a little bit, Wuhan, as well as the asteroid Pan for pandemic. Okay, so watch the sky with me. Now, the first thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the old sky. So let me just stop the share. Let me just not do that for a sec. Stop the recording and pull up January 12, 2020. Just before I talk about this sky as it pertains to 2020 and what it looks like today and how that story is still continuing, I want to say one more thing. Using Ren Butler's book, The Archetypal Universe, please get it if you're interested in easy to read astrology that's very useful, archetypal. Moon Pluto, I love what he says about Moon Pluto context, because we have a lunation. We have a full moon in Capricorn with Pluto there. Pluto won't be there for full moons again. Pluto's leaving for 248 years. Sayonara, Pluto, after a long, long time. So in January next year, Pluto is going to be back in Aquarius till the end of the year of 2020. of 2024, and then he's going to spend a couple months in the fall of 24 back in Capricorn, and then he's gone for another 248 years. So think of this also as the moon's last stand. The moon is having its very last lunation with Pluto in Aquarius as a full moon. So here's what we have here. A full moon, moon Pluto energy, emotional intensity, because Pluto is co-present with this moon at 11 degrees, Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn, co-presence, okay? Emotional intensity, deep and passionate feelings, powerful catharsis of repressed energies and emotions, renewal and regeneration, and kindness during a time of crisis, because moon is about kindness, crisis is Pluto. So you see the intensity of the sky as this is happening. Now here's the history of it. Go back with me, and please, I know you guys, some of you only want to get to your sign. It's all about your rebirth, your regeneration, your renewal, your deep intensity of emotions, but bear with us here. There is a big picture. Maybe you might want to know about it. Maybe, not to be rude, you might want to know about it. Hey, if you're new to my channel and you haven't hit my like button, or you're watching in the live premiere, please do hit that like button. And if you would subscribe, I would really so appreciate that. I would love to grow my channel to 100,000 subscribers, and I'm growing at 3,000 to 3,500 subs a month in the last few months. All right, here we have your sky on 2020, January 12th, when you can see Saturn, Pluto, and Mercury conjunct. We're having a similar constellation, right? We're having Mercury conjunct the sun, because Mercury is always pretty close to the sun. There's Mercury, sun. And this time we're having Mercury and the sun opposite the moon, and the moon and Pluto are together, right? The similar energies are here. And of course, this began the news releases around the situation in Wuhan. And you can see that there's a south node of loss and letting go and difficult, challenging things in Capricorn, with a debilitated Jupiter in the sign of his fall, the fall of a king, the fall of a kingdom, the fall of a nation. And then you see Wuhan. That little symbol is actually the asteroid Wuhan. Wuhan is a city connected to military overthrow. It's a story of a overthrow of an emperor. Wuhan, actually, I believe in Chinese, can mean something like cold military, or military cold, or something like that. You can't make that up, the word cold, right? Because COVID is a cold virus, basically, connected to the cold virus, coronavirus. And corona is crown, of course. And you can see that up here we have this emblematic foreboding Wuhan energy in the sky, and it is square Chiron, because this lunation that we're having, it is also square Chiron. So Chiron and Aries then, Chiron and Aries now, we have a square to Chiron, and that's medical stuff, healing. Chiron often is representative of things to do with the healing professions, but it's also the place of a deep wound. Of course, in Aries, it could be a military wound. It could be another kind of wound with the things to do with aggression or pioneering. Well, we'll get into that when we see our current sky. What else do we have? This little guy with the horns on top, like this. This little guy down here, that happens to be, let me annotate a bit for us. That happens to be Pan for pandemic. Yeah, Pan for pandemic. You can't make this stuff up. So what would you guys say? Hindsight is so, unfortunately, 2020, that the North Node Rahu, which is full of intensity and amplification of Pan for pandemic, in the sign of Cancer, which is where the sun is today for this lunation in Capricorn, is opposite Wuhan, South Node, Jupiter, Sun, all of this up here. Look at this. This is really provocative. What is going on back then that is also very active in the sky today? I'm going to show you these asteroids all over again. Wuhan and pandemic are very active, along with Chiron, that square energy to Chiron that's happening back then, the wounded part of reality. Now, military and soldiers and governments can be connected to Aries, especially when it comes to the military aspect of governance. Keep that in mind. Now, this little thing over here, this is a asteroid called Pandora. It's all the ills that befell the world: war, plague, strife, difficulties, from Pandora's box. And Pandora accidentally opened the box. She was tricked by the gods, but hope was left in the bottom of the box. So there's a story about Pandora, of all the bad things that can befall humanity. At the end of the day, hallelujah, there is the word hope. Okay, so it's not all is necessarily lost. And my feeling here is I want to bring into the story the idea that at 14 degrees of Gemini, a very sensitive place in the sky, there have been eclipses close to that, including in June of 2021, 19-degree lunar eclipse on the very spot that Pandora was sitting. The ails that befell the world. This Pandora is sitting on the United States of America's ascendant at 12 degrees of Gemini. What is this Pandora's box that is being opened? And that this eclipse of June of 2021 was amplifying. In June of 2021, we were in the thick of the mitigations for the pandemic rollouts, right? The medical interventions that were occurring at the time that could be a bit of a Pandora's box, or not, right? Back in November of 2020 at 8 degrees of Gemini, there was also an eclipse around this sensitive point. So there's a lot of energy going on around the point of the USA ascendant degree, a lunar eclipse in November of 2020. The virus had escaped, by the way, from the lab. Yes, it's not a lab leak theory anymore. New information is coming out on that as I speak, as I record this, and I'm recording on, let me get my recording date for you guys, Monday, the 19th of June. So there's no longer any doubt by most people that the money that the NIH funded research for gain of function in Wuhan, and that the virus was not contained. And the first 3 people to get sick from the virus turned out to be scientists in that lab. That's new breaking news stories coming out around this time. Therefore, the US government knew about it. And in fact, US agencies have already declared that the lab leak theory is most likely the truth. Don't know why mainstream media isn't catching that wave. About a year and a half ago, I mentioned the lab leak theory and was told on this channel that I was a conspiracy theorist. So there's a lack of desire for people to look squarely at what may have really happened. Basically, Pandora's box is the releasing of some kind of ails upon the world. And this is on the USA ascendant at the time of the conjunction, the great conjunction of Pluto and Saturn, which is with the asteroid Wuhan, opposite the god Pan for pandemic. And there's that USA ascendant. All I'm going to say is clearly the NIH was funding research that's now everyone's knowledge in Wuhan. They took it offshore because it was illegal in the USA. The lab was a low-level security facility compared to what was needed, and the virus contaminated the scientists studying it, and then it got into the greater community and then around the world. That's no better description of Pandora's box than I could ever come up with. All right, now that I've got that little lecture off my chest, I'm going to, yes, you can unsubscribe if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist. All right, I don't really care. I'm going to stop the annotation because I messed up the whole chart. I'm going to say one more thing about this little asteroid right here. That's Shiva the Destroyer. Why did I bring Shiva the Destroyer in right now? Because we're going to talk about Shiva the Destroyer in our current lunation cycle, okay? Shiva is sitting with a moon in Leo at 1 degrees of the sign of Leo at the time of this great conjunction. So Shiva was kind of hovering on the sidelines of the story in a broad sextile to Pandora's box. Now we're going to go ahead and look at the sky as it exists today, as we're coming into the July 3rd, very intense, emotionally regenerative, maybe reboot your entire life like a forest fire goes down, and you're going to restore some new order, some new creativity to some area of your life. But for the world, we're going to show what it looks like for the world, and then we're going to go rapid fire through all signs. This video is not one of my longer ones. It will be no longer than an hour. If I'm talking too fast for you, I got a tip. You can slow down the speed of listening as a free feature on YouTube. Just Google how to do it. Alrighty, we're going to take a look at the other sky, the one of this lunation coming up, and you'll be startled to see how it connected to the one I just showed you. All right, let's get that new chart up for everybody and take a look. Here's our lunation, our full moon. It's going to happen, as I said, with Shiva the Destroyer sitting right on the sun, and there's Pan for pandemic sitting right on the sun. You can see there's Mercury, just like he was involved, Mr. News Cycle, just like he was involved during the 2020 January 12th event. And so again, we have Pan pandemic and Shiva the Destroyer and the sun. And remember the stars I talked about? The reactionary, the revolutionary, the evolutionary, the true seeker stars that we talked about. They're involved because they're sitting with the sun at the time of this particular moon. The moon is across the way, which makes it a full moon. And the moon is with Pluto. Don't forget, Pluto's not going to be in Capricorn after this for 248 years. So we have our last full moon in Capricorn with Pluto co-present, because the full moons in Capricorn always occur in the summers. And basically Pluto is not going to be back in Capricorn in any other summer unless you live for another 240 odd years. So this is a big deal moon. You can see that the moon midpoint, basically between 29 and 11 degrees, is 20 degrees and 27 minutes of the sign of Capricorn. It was at 22 degrees of Capricorn that Saturn co-joined with Pluto and Mercury and the Sun and a fallen Jupiter and asteroid Wuhan back in January of 2020. So this midpoint is a sensitive point, and it's being activated by this Pluto moon co-presence in the sign of Capricorn. Well, what's Wuhan doing? There's asteroid Wuhan on the south node. Technically, that's interesting, isn't it? Because Wuhan and the south node were together in 2020 when the south node was in Capricorn instead of Scorpio. At the very same time, you might be asking what happened to the Pandora's box. There's the Pandora's box at the world axis point. OMG. 0 degrees Aries is called the world axis. It's a critical turning point in the world to do with the myth of Pandora, the ails that befell the world when the gods tricked that the first woman, she's like our Eve in Greek mythology. The gods made a woman for their version of Adam, and she let the ails spill upon the world. Always like the myths that blame women for everything, Eve and the serpent and this particular mythology. But the idea is she was duped into opening up a box that created this calamity on earth, including war and pandemics, plagues, and everything else that's really awful about life here sometimes. And so, this world axis Pandora, right? Pandora is coming into a connection to this moon. And basically what is happening is it's coming into a broad square. It's forming a T-square, right? Which is a very tense aspect pattern from all of these angles to all of these angles. The good news is Wuhan is not doing an angle of intensity. He's forming a wedge, and a wedge can be very useful. A wedge can be very positive. That's going to be a breaking of the tension between the moon and the sun and Pandora's box and all of that. And Wuhan is the key. Like, let's put it this way. Let's just speak English straight up. What's going to happen is the United States government, on the day I'm recording this, June the 19th, was supposed to release to the public under congressional order, perhaps, some sort of document explaining what the intelligence communities knew about the first 3 scientists in Wuhan who were in the lab, who got COVID before the general public, before, the wet market theory. And they haven't done that. That's really just disconcerting and strange, isn't it, on this Monday? Anthony Blinken is in Taiwan right now. I think that's his name. I think he's the Secretary of State. Sorry, I'm Canadian. But the point is maybe that Taiwan thing can heat up as well. But I'm thinking this is a lot of pandemic energy going through that sort of July 4th holiday time, add 2 weeks after. Now, for everybody who we're doing all signs, I'm just about to go into the December 23rd reference. Back in December 23rd of 2022, we had a new moon in the sign of Capricorn. New moons tend to connect to full moons like a connect the dot. So when I go through your sign, I'll say, think back to December 23rd. What new things were you beginning in your life that are now going to go through an emotional intensity or a revolutionary death and rebirth energy with Shiva the Destroyer, reflecting that kind of experience into your Capricorn 12th house. I'm not going to talk about all these weird asteroids that have to do with the pandemic. As you can see, when I talked about good old Pandora, she's with Chiron, who is indeed in a very tight square to this full moon. And it's the same very day on July 3rd that the moon will progress into a perfect square with the wounded healer Chiron, but also the one who's often dealing with things to do with the medical world or the healing world. Lots to say about it, lots going on. And so let's get moving. There's a broad trine, by the way, a broad trine, shock and awe trine to the moon as well from Uranus in a sign that's connected quite often to the labor force or the economy in the United States, or currencies and markets as well. So that could be a good sign for the markets. I think this whole thing I've just shown you is more really truly all about something to do with the pandemic. The Lord of the moon, the planetary ruler, is Saturn. He's in Pisces, co-present with Neptune. I didn't put Neptune in here. Neptune also rules illnesses and plagues and pandemics as well, to do with nebulous, hard to see, tiny little things called viruses or whatever that can make us sick. Even bacteria. Cholera is a Neptunian illness. So, Saturn is kind of working with like dispelling the illusion and delusions that Neptune had created during the pandemic. And Saturn's Mr. No Nonsense and bringing us back down to reality. So there'd be a big reality check. I should have called this the reality check full moon. I might call it a reality check full moon, honestly, because that's what it feels like. So you may have a reality check in your own life, but it's going to allow you to build something, build back better, bigger, going to build something better and bigger in the area of your Capricorn house, of your sky, 12 houses, 12 parts of your real estate. Okay, so now we're going to whip through the all signs. It's not going to take us a long time. Slow the playback speed. It's a quick, fast delineation. Boom, 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 boom. About your sign, where you're going to have a transformation and a building back better. Go back to December 23rd, link it to this lunation on July 3rd at about 6 months maybe for it to all fulfill itself, but you'll see what I mean. Even the first 2 weeks after the moon, you'll get the sense of what is being destroyed, Shiva the Destroyer, and renewed. Okay, destroyed and renewed. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, I'm just going to show you guys the chart. When you're watching this on replay, like you're watching this later, there's timestamps and chapters. But if you come into my live premiere and you're chatting with me, you can always tell what sign we're on by looking to this side of the chart. And there's the Aries symbol. And whatever's on that eastern horizon is what we're talking about. And if you're in the live premiere with me and you're one of my regulars, the Feral Writer, Stephen the Jupiterian, Jupiter 8, Crystalline Alchemist, Herbal Empress, and oh my God, some newbies, Purple Table Tarot, and more. Please, please, please. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. Let's go ahead and do all of this in half an hour. That's how fast I'm going. Yep. Keep on up, guys. So if you're an Aries sun, moon, and more accurately rising sign, this is going to be the beginning of this story of a regeneration with Shiva the Destroyer saying rebirth. Kill off and rebirth your career. Kill off and rebirth your purpose, your visible reputation. Something is changing up here for you Aries people. You want to look back to December 23rd and ask yourself what might have been going on there. This is reflecting an evolutionary, revolutionary, truth-seeking energy off that sun with those stars. It's reflecting Shiva the Destroyer. What is it you want to birth anew? And what birthing anew may you do from your home base, your private life, the dark midnight of your sky, as you tend that part of your hearth fire with the sun, and you look at rebirth and regeneration. And Mercury can be bringing you really cool ideas. Mercury is in the temple of the moon. Therefore, he's going to try to please that moon and give you some really good ideas or communications that allow you to regenerate and rebirth your entire, hallelujah, visible reputation, career, and purpose. You started to want to do this in December, around the 23rd. Certain things were coming up, but certainly you can look at the 2 weeks that follow for some clear directionality on how this rebirth might take place. As an Aries sun and moon and Mercury, I'm rebirthing my career. I'm probably not doing much readings in the future. I'm kind of actually burning out because I've seen 5,000 clients or more in three years. And I always want to tell you, if you're an astrologer and you don't still see real clients, you're not really an astrologer because you've got theoretical astrology. Get in the trenches with clients and you know how things really work. But rebirthing your career, okay, is basically the story for all of you Aries sun, moon, or your reputation in some significant way, and healing any chironic wounds of self-unworthiness or lack of self-esteem or lack of feeling like you belong to your life, to your world. That chironic square is in that part of your sky as well. Saturn probably says something like dive deep into your dreams at night, your psyche, your soul, to come up with the right new direction. Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign. In this sky, you guys are having a regeneration, emotional intensity, and rebirth of your beliefs in God, truth and wisdom. Could involve education and higher educational settings. It could involve foreign lands and travel, court matters and visas, but it's going to engender a big energy of rebirth here for you. And you can also maybe include third marriages and book publishing as well, if these are important parts of your life. And so as this full moon is happening up here with Pluto for the last time in your lifetime, this is an intense, profound rebuild and transformation, but you have to tear down the old to rebuild the new. Certainly a crisis of faith or spiritual belief can happen in the 2 weeks that follow, but go back to December 23rd. What kind of crucible, crisis, crunchy energy was happening in the Capricorn new moon that is now playing out as a completion of the process? Now, add to that, the sun is in your third house. This is your local neighborhood, your neighbors, your siblings. It can be things you're doing online. And with Mercury there's certainly some ability here for some Taurians to develop some kind of transformational underbelly or root of the transformation from things that happen through siblings or the local environment. But that said, the change is in your ninth. Saturn, who is the Lord of the lunation, probably says, like, lean on your friends to help guide you to this spiritual retransformation, or lean on your money and gains you make from your purpose and career path to support you in this revolutionary shift of what you believe is the meaning of your life. And for some of it, it'll be a very practical thing about, like, my daughter is a Taurus sun. Maybe it'll have to do with some kind of academic revelation for her as she finishes her last year of university. That's the ninth house. But each of you will see a rebirth and a regeneration through the destruction of something in the ninth house. Father figures belong to the ninth house, patriarchal figures. So there can be a death and rebirth energy around those types of people in your life as well. All right, Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. Remember, we're going fast because this is a quickie. And if you are somebody who likes me to talk slower, you can slow the playback speed. I'm talking Geminis who love everything pretty fast. Witty, sociable, flexible, adaptable you're having this lunation in your eighth house of chunky money. I think I coined that term here in astrology land, but what it means is that you don't earn it. It's not a paycheck. It comes like an inheritance, a tax rebate, sometimes a windfall, if you activate the fifth house or 11th. It comes through your spousal shared resources, alimony, spousal support, investment monies, tax, royalty income, passive residual money. So all of this kind of chunky money that you could be accessing is being highlighted, but there may need to be here, Geminis, a kind of death of the old way and a rebirth of something new, with Shiva the Destroyer being reflected back by this moon. The reflection is coming from the second house of earnings. What way are you earning money right now that is no longer sustainable? What job, what career path, what earning structure is not sustainable because you want to join into this energy of the evolution, regeneration, truth seeking, rebirthing sun with those stars on it and with this kind of energy of Shiva the Destroyer. Basically, it suggests a death of an old earning structure and a birth of something new in the way you can maybe full energy rely on some kind of more passive income structures or some savings or shared resources with a spouse or something like that. Now, inheritances are included. Also, I would tell you that go back to December 23rd, because this is when this feeling of a need for change in the money structures of your life began to emerge. Saturn, who is the lunation lord in the 10th, says maybe rebirth it through a change of career or a change in your purpose or a change in your reputation. The way you do things in the world is getting tired, getting old. You might not want to climb that mountaintop anymore. You're looking for a new mountain to climb. That's often a Saturn transit through the 10th house. You hit the top of Mount Everest and now you're like, what's next? And that's the question mark, and you will find the answer, and you will find the answer likely in the 2 weeks that follow, but even the 6 months that follow this moon, because all moons are connected by a 6-month cycle, new, full. Anything else I would say to you? No, not really. Well, certainly having the South Node in your last gasp of the South Node in your 6th house of work is definitely winding you down. It's the end of a work cycle for you, and something new is trying to emerge. All right. Some of you might even be getting ready to travel to foreign lands and get getaways going, or even move to another country with Jupiter in your 12th house until next May, end of next May. All right, Cancer, sun, moon, and rising. Don't forget, hit the like button if you're in the live premiere or watching this later. If you're a Cancer, this is important. You're one of the angular signs to this moon, and that, of course, means that your cardinal sign energy is being activated, just as it is for Libra, Aries, and also Capricorn. And therefore, this is a lunation or a full moon in your 7th house of significant life relationships. That can be your husband or wife type thing, okay? That can be somebody that you're very close to. It can be a boss or a client, but they're meaningful relationships, not, scattershot. A whole sign category wise, this is 10th, 7th house is 10th from the 10th, and that can be your marketplace audience type thing, as well. So Cancer rising people, especially Sun and Moon secondarily, there is a completion and ending, sort of a death and a rebirth trying to happen in that chunk of your real estate, your 7th house. Go back to December 23rd when you felt the beginning of this energy building up, and now it's coming to a fullness and completion, if not crisis. Now, the way Shiva's working on that sun, right, in the house of your identity, you are the destroyer. You destroy what doesn't work for you. You ditch those clients. You quit that marriage. You end that business partnership. You're the one. You break that legal contract, another meaning that you break that vow. You're going to destroy something that's 7th house-ish. And Pluto's not going to be in your 7th house, and he's been there since 2008, in your life with a full moon ever again. So this is an important placement. You may be breaking through and breaking down and breaking away and ending patterns of relating to significant people in your life, because Cancers, you don't like conflict and confrontation for the most part, unless you're pushed into a corner and your sharp claws come out. Those are crab claws, or lobster claws used to be also the symbol for Cancer. So what the heck, figure out your boundaries. Maybe there's a big boundary setting, death and rebirth energy for you during July 3rd, add 2 weeks. Go back to December 23rd for when this friction feeling began. Now, at the same time, I can make a case for you that Saturn is saying, lean on, move into, align with your deepest beliefs. What is the meaning of your life? 9th house energies. What is it that you're really wanting to step into? It could be even a call for things like going back and educating yourself, traveling or moving to a foreign country, getting that darn book published once and for all. But that's where Saturn is as a wedge position, trying to break some tension here and bring you a glimmer of light. What can you do in that 9th house to kind of make this kind of death and rebirth transformation happen? Technically, you could get a legal contract though here for any kind of situation that involves publishing. If you're a Cancer rising who wants that, a full moon in the house of legal contracts and vows and agreements, and Saturn in the house of book publishing. I do know a few Cancers who are writing. I think one of my followers is a Cancer rising as well on my regular thing. The Pharaoh writer may be one of these. And one of my best friends is Cancer rising. All you Cancer risings into the book world, this is good for you. But at a deeper level, Saturn's helping stabilize and give you a longer lasting, more solid, meaningful belief structure. This is a house of God, the 9th house of religion. Same would apply to third marriages. This can be a very deep desire to stabilize a third marriage by transforming the way you relate to your partner. All right, Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign in your sky. You have this full moon, Shiva the Destroyer energy in your 6th house of work and health routines. Now, this can be the end, completion of some kind of health challenge. This can be the completion, the end, and the fullness of some kind of work habit or situation or routine or the way you do the work. This could be the death of a pet, full moon, endings, Pluto, death. This can also be the end of a rental situation or agreement or tenancy situation. Now, sometimes when the moon is full in the 6th house, it's activating your 12th, and it can be a very karmatic time, and it can involve the release of a karmic debt with some situation or some person. And because Shiva the Destroyer is in the 12th house, a lot of this is a metacosmos type of energy between the worlds, above this world, not of this world. So a lot of this is soul work, very soul worky as well. Shiva the Destroyer can end a bad habit, a pattern, addiction, self-sabotaging mechanism in your life that it's time to release and let go. It doesn't have to be a literal chemical addiction. It can be a thought addiction. It could be a deeply held sabotaging archetype within you, the saboteur, where you undo yourself, where you fall away from yourself, is going to be attempted to destroy and rebirth you from destroying your own self-undoing tendencies. Saturn might say something here, right? He might have a comment from the 8th house of shared resources with your partners in business and marriage, or from your taxes and your 401k, but Saturn's in a money house. He's also in an occult mystery house and one of the moksha or liberation houses. So either you're having a full-on deepening of a spiritual revelation and a breaking of a karmic pattern, and or you're having a change in your finances and work situations. But whatever Saturn's doing there, he's doing something good because he's breaking the tension of this intensity in the sky and giving you some options. And some of of them may be monetary. So look for some monetary developments in the 2 weeks that follow this moon. Go back to December 23rd, okay, in which maybe if you go back to December 23rd, you could see where some of this really began. Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. I often talk about so many people I know who are Virgos. I won't name them all again, but it often is because I give you examples from people intimate to me rather than my clients. So if you're a Virgo, sun, moon, and rising, the energy of this full moon breaking down, breaking free energy, like more like a death and regeneration, is in the 5th house of romantic love, pregnancy, children, independent business enterprise, creativity, the muse. If you're a Virgo rising and you are, looking at a romantic situation that it was tenuous and difficult since December 23rd, particularly as it involves the word sexuality or procreation. Well, December 23rd's new moon here is now full, but it's full of destroying something in order to build something new. So there will be some of you with whom there is a relationship catalyzed to break up. It's a little bit of break down to break through, if possible, some tension there, maybe sexual tension, for example. And you can see that Saturn is going through your 7th house of committed love, and will be doing that until 2026. And that makes a committed relationship more challenging. And maybe your partner's going through depression or difficulties, and it makes it more difficult for you. But that Saturn's trying to break through the tension and create a wedge effect. So you may have a breakthrough in a tension in an existing love and romantic relationship, or potentially with a child. If you're an entrepreneur, this could be a breakthrough with a client, or a breakthrough with something to do with the way you reach out to an audience or a marketplace. And, the intensity of the Shiva Destroyer and the stars I talked about earlier on that sun with Mercury, Mr. News, is in the 11th house of larger groups of belonging. This is some of your friends, your social networks, perhaps. And it may be that there's some tension there, that some friend is disrupting you in a relationship with a child, a relationship with a romantic partner. And also, by the way, elder siblings belong to the 11th, and there could be some disruptive connections to an elder sibling that are destabilizing your 5th house activities. No matter which way, though, there's a lot going on here. I say with Mercury in the temple of the moon trying to please the moon, Mercury's trying to bring some news that could support you to transform and break through. So maybe some good information and news from a friend or a sibling or a group of belonging that's going to help you heal and transform and rebirth and regenerate some existing relationship with a child, creative project, business enterprise, or lover. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign. The full moon is birthing anew, death and rebirthing, Shiva the Destroyer, something in your 4th house of home, property, real estate, land, mother, childhood, homeland, family of origin, domestic private life, 4th house stuff. This is a bottom of the sky, your cardinal sign, so it's going to be an intense crosshairs energy for you. You go back to December 23rd. What was happening then? Because now that was a new seed planted for this death rebirth in the 4th house of home. But it is also connected to your career and reputation, where Shiva the Destroyer sits and the moon is reflecting the light in the 4th house. Change of home, change of career, change of home and career. Either one is possible in the 2 weeks that follow the June 3rd full moon. And you may be doing some kind of real reinvention of yourself. You may take a career path or job direction that is really outside the box of anything you've ever done before, especially if you're looking for a new one. Or you may kill out, retire from, and quit something, especially suddenly, Uranus in the 8th house, retirement of something you no longer wish to do professionally. Certainly there can be a very intense thing with your mother relationship from this, or to do with your family of origin, especially your home that you grew up in, and people in that homeland zone of your chart, especially if you've moved at all from your homeland. Especially with the mother in the house of the mother, there definitely could be some mother death, rebirth, tensions, reinventions of that relationship, or just some critical events going on in the life of your mother in the 2 weeks that follow this moon. As I said, go back to December 23rd to see the seeds of this that may have been planted. The moon is not comfortable in Capricorn. The moon is in its detriment. Okay. So the moon in its detriment in Capricorn could be some difficulty with a mother figure in your life at this time. The Saturn may be saying, as a wedge breaking energy, hey, let's get something going in your 6th house. Let's get something moving in your health, in your work. Let's stabilize your health. Let's stabilize your work. Let's get routines that are sustainable, that can go the distance. Otherwise, Saturn can make you sick over the next 2.5 years with a bunch of gnarly karmic illnesses. So stabilize the way you do your work. Pace yourself. Pace your health routines. Do something that is a foundation for better health. And so as a Libra rising, especially, this is the call of the sky to find the answer to these questions about how to stabilize work and health in such a way that as you transform those things, work, health, job, career, and home life, they all come out in the wash looking better than they started. And if you always wanted a pet, I think Saturn in the house of pets, the 6th house, could bring you a pet. Probably Saturn would be what he called a rescue animal, who's been under hardship and who's older. That could be a very soft touch for someone who needs a pet in their life at this point as a Libra. All right, we're going to get going. I've got a client and I got to get through the next 12 minutes in time. So let's roll. Scorpio sun, moon and rising sign. You're having this energy of a full moon lunation happening in your 3rd house of siblings, trips, travels, aunts, uncles, cousins, and online world and short distance travel. And they say skills-based learning. All of those 3rd house things are coming to fullness with a sort of dying off and rebuilding of something new. This could also change your neighborhood. This started December 23rd. Could you be moving to a new home in a new neighborhood? Very possibly. You're also having a full moon in the house of siblings, some new connection, some fullness and reestablishing connection, death, rebirth of a sibling connection in some fundamental way. There's also the energy here of looking at what is going on in that 9th house. That 9th house of God is very active here. That 9th house is where Shiva the Destroyer is sitting with the sun in the house of its joy. There's a lot of what beliefs are you trying to form? What kind of new philosophy of life? What kind of underpinning of understanding the nature of your own life and the meaning of your own life are trying to be instigated? Now, book publishing is the 9th house, for example. Courts, the 9th house. Trips to foreign lands are the 9th house. Academia. So there's practical places where there's a need for a restructuring, a rebirth, and a redefinition of something. But it's lighting the way through the 3rd. So quit university and go to college. Quit university and do a trade school. I mean, those are 3rd house, 9th house stories, right? I know there's something germane to that part of the sky. Some of you may initiate a new spiritual direction, but also a new learning direction as a result of this intensity in the sky, or complete a writing project and get a publisher in the 2 weeks that follow. All very big possibilities. Saturn is saying something like, hey, your love life has been sucking or your creativity has been kind of slow. Saturn wants you to get really creative in that 5th house and bring your Neptunian visions and creations into fruition. Same applies for entrepreneurship. And it feels hard. Now, Saturn is breaking this tension in a wedge, and he says something like, well, and maybe you can find some structured play or some planned sex or some kind of planned joy and enjoyment in your life to sort of soften the intensity of what is going on between your 3rd and 9th house. See a scryer, diviner, crystal ball gazer in the 2 weeks that follow. You won't be disappointed. 3rd house are those things. Full moon here with Pluto. Be a life-changing reading. If you're thinking of getting a reading with someone, harness it 2 weeks after the July 3rd moon. All right, Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. A full moon is lighting you up with Shiva the Destroyer in your 2nd house of income, earnings, and possessions, and self-worth and self-love, and food you put in your mouth, and substances, among other things. Voice, vocation, calling can be derivatives of the house of speech. What is your voice, vocation, and calling in this life? Well, the new moon, full moon, is taking off cue from the December 23rd new moon. And the moon is saying something very specific. Like, what is it that you think that you would wish to complete here or bring to fruition or fullness? But you have to encounter the destroyer first. The destroyer Shiva is sitting in your 8th house of inheritance money, 8th house of shared resources with a partner, money that you may get from an investment or a tax situation or a mortgage or something. And that is a lot of death, rebirth, Shiva over there, man, with those stars on the sun. There's a lot going on, and it may involve some need to restructure some kind of shared money resources with somebody that you're currently involved with, whether it's love or business. And the full moon is shining a light on the way the money is or isn't flowing through your actual real life in terms of, say, earnings or cash flow. So there's a lot going on about the money axis of full energies here, intense and emotionally intense energies as well. Saturn may be saying in the fourth house, some of this is about property, land, inheritance, and real estate, legacy, wealth from the family of origin, and more. Are you having tensions in that part of your sky? It may even involve family members you grew up with, including siblings, because Saturn rules your house of siblings and exalts your house of the elder sibling. Long story short, even sibling tensions about land, property, real estate, and agreements regarding mortgages, buying and selling of land. And for some of you, because Mercury is involved in the Shiva the Destroyer and rules your marriage house, I'm going to say for some Sages, this is a tension with your marriage partner about finances, property, and real estate and shared resources. Don't forget, you're destroying to rebuild. So you may, quit your 401k, you may sell your stocks, you may sell a house. You're going to make some defining financial changes as this 2 weeks follows this July 3rd lunation. This is the most likely action plan. Mercury spills secrets in the 8th house. Unfortunately, the 8th house is full of forbidden topics, but if there are secrets spilled that are devastating, and especially if they're about money or secret love affairs, this can really be an intense 2 weeks that follow the July 3rd moon, but then it will help you rebuild, restore, and redo your sense of solid foundation and self-worth. If you're a Capricorn sun, moon, and rising sign, you're going to encounter energies here that have to do with a full moon in the house of you. You have been through it, man. You've had Pluto going through your house since 2008. You know it's been tough. It's been intense. A little bit more intensity before you're all done. This energy can be about you going from December 23rd's new moon in the sign of you to a full moon about death and rebirth of identity. How are you going to destroy, tear down the old version of you and rebuild a new self? And if you're going to do it, you've started to think about it as far back as December 23rd last year. It's also connecting you to the marriage partnership, business partnership, and significant life others, including clients. That energy that's really intense in your 7th house, it definitely is like what destruction is going on here. Some of you may end up with a situation of breaking free or breaking away from an existing commitment, vow, a legal agreement, partnership of some sort in order to generate a new version of you that you feel is more potent and who you are, because this is your last chance to have a full moon in the house of your identity, and it is a game changer. Therefore, Saturn might say in your 3rd house something like, and don't forget to consider the siblings, don't forget to consider the neighbors, don't forget to consider the local neighborhood, don't forget to consider trips, journeys, travels, online world, and education that are based on something you can use, tangible skills-based learning. I guess I could make a case here too. And then if it's about your clients in that 7th house and you work online, this is some kind of Saturnian stabilization of your online world. Or writing, because writing belongs to the 3rd house. Have you been writing? If you have a writing project, it's time to stabilize, finish, complete. Saturn, the last bit of it, work through to the finish line. Mercury rules your house of book publishing, and he's in the house of contracts. So you could have an end of a contract with a publisher or the birth of a new one. Things like that can be said of the sky, but I'd have to see your sky in your natal chart in order to be actually precise. Don't forget, if you're in the live premiere and you have yet to hit my like button, it does help the channel grow. All right, 2 more signs to go in only 5 minutes. Watch me do it. All right, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising, full new moon, the death and rebirth of something in your 12th house. I'm an Aquarius like you guys. This is like what sabotage, self-undoing, falling away from yourself has to blow out and be executed, and then you can rise again in a resurrection. Or you could resurrect some kind of strategy for making money, death of the old money-making strategy if it involves foreign lands and foreign shores or foreigners, and a rise up into something completely new and different as a result of this new moon, full moon. Go back to December 23rd. What were you thinking then about a new strategy in the 12th house matters? I mean, obviously the moon is a female, Pluto's death. You could have a female figure, usually motherly, that could be in the hospital or ill in the 2 weeks that follow this moon. There's that kind of practical application of meaning here, just so you know. You may also find that the energy is requiring of you something along the lines of a deep soul work, because this part of the sky has to do with your soul. And you may be going deep, deep, deep into your soul here. What do you need to figure out at a deep soulful level about who you really are, what you really want in life, and rebirth some aspect of self? Because at a very nice, deeper level, full spiritual liberation is available in your 12th house. It's a big wake up, spiritual awakening energy that you're encountering in this part of the sky. You may also think, well, Shiva the Destroyer is in the 6th house of pets, rental agreements. That's your 6th house. And work habits and routines, especially in Cancer, especially with Mercury there and the Sun. There's a call in the sky to establish better health routines at this juncture in your life. And you may be looking at how to do that right now, how to establish better routines in your daily habits of your health or in your work pacing. And this is just death and rebirth of those types of things in your sky. Also, you may find that with Saturn in the 2nd house, he says, stabilize a structure for earnings that is new. I'm here to help you do that. Okay? So simple. And this can be the mitigating factor between the tension in 12-6. Find a slow but steady tortoise wins the race, earnings, pace, and structure in your life. Or quit a bad habit and refine, control what you put in your mouth in food and substances that are not good for you. Last and always first and never least, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You get the last 2 minutes of this video. Everyone got a short one. It's not just you. There's a full moon that asks you to die and be born again, death and rebirth, big overhaul and renewal in your 11th house of good spirit. This is going to allow you to birth new friendship circles, but you might have to kill off the old friends. Time to end old associations, old tribes of belonging, old areas of connecting to others in larger groups, maybe even ending your old dreams, wishes, and goals for your life. Kind of wholesale burn it down so that you can rebirth new wishes, new dreams, new 5-year plans, new social groups, new social circles, new ways to have greater gains from a career path emerging out of this lunation. You have the Shiva, the Destroyer, in the 5th house of children, sexuality, romance, entrepreneurship. And, the Destroyer isn't necessarily going to end something there, but it can be an intensity that helps you regenerate. Ultimately, the 5th house is where you can manifest from. You create, procreate, and co-create with the divine from that 5th house energies. What are you going to rebirth, co-create, restore in your life coming off of this 5th house, 11th house axis? Honestly, Mercury, games of chance, is sitting in your 5th house. How about a lottery win that restores and changes everything for some of you Pisces? And Saturn is saying, hey, over here, I'm stabilizing you. I'm giving you gravitas. I'm giving you, in the house of your identity, a solid, sober-minded sense of reality. And we're going to apply that to your dreams, wishes, and hopes, and we're going to make them real. But there's some breakthrough energy in the lucky money house of the 5th house and the 11th house of great gains. Some of this could involve an elder sibling, some ally, but you're having this juicy energy, but you're rebirthing 2 of the money houses, 5-11, and has to do with the gains. And you have a chironic wound in your earnings house since 2019. A lot of Pisces have been feeling down in the dumps or down and out about the money that they're not making or making in life, because I know a lot of Pisces going through this chironic transit since 2019, ending in 26, and Chiron at the square of this can help you heal that wound in some way. I realize I didn't do Chiron for everyone. I apologize, but I'm bringing it up here because it caught my eye again. So what are you going to heal in that 2nd house energy field that's going to be rebirthed in the 2 of the money houses, particularly the greater gains from your career and the way you are having hopes, dreams, and wishes for what it is you wish to experience in your life. All right, guys, we're done. We're going to end now. And thank you for listening. I will see you guys on the other side of this video when I'm going to be doing yet another video on the North and South Node moving into the Libra and the Aries axis. I have one video I did in December. Go check it out in my Big 23 playlist. And I think you'll enjoy it. And I'll be doing another video on that shortly. And you'll be seeing that just after this.